Yeah.
You mentioned like canceling something once you've finished it. So are you someone who has like a whole schedule for like a week or like a daily thing? Do you say, okay, so today I woke up at 6, done. I finished this 3-hour session, done. Like how do you keep track of all the things that you have to do in a week or in a day?
Okay, that's a good question. So to be honest, I used to be, but it takes a lot of time. Just sitting down and listing things or doing entries in Google Calendar takes time. So what I've just resorted to doing now is just making sure that the things that I actually enter into my calendars are like non-negotiables. Things that I need to make sure that I do no matter what. These are things that are, of utmost importance. Those are the things that I include in my calendar. But then daily, I always have, you have a lecture schedule that's already there. So you know exactly what you need to do. Because the reason why some of us aren't very productive is because you don't know exactly what you need to do. You walk into the library and you're clueless. And now you start looking for work to do. And now that's going to make you think, oh no, I don't like this subject. Let me try this one. But if you've got a schedule that is already set, if you've got a lecture schedule, if you've got a study schedule, you know that, okay, today I'm supposed to be doing this and this from this time to this time. If you manage to cross it off, then that's it. I don't, account for every single minute of the day because I think it's not practical. It's not a practical way to live. But ultimately, as long as you know that, okay, I followed my schedule today to the T, and of course, maybe I might have slipped a couple of times, but overall, it's a good day. Remember, a good day isn't 100%. It could be 75. It could be 80.
But that's the best you could do in that day.
Man, I think, when I asked you about what's the secret to 7 distinctions, you gave us a whole lot of things. And I'm not going to lie, I think that was really brilliant because I think that's something that people really want to know about. Maybe that's because, there are a lot of people that are doing well, but they never really share the secrets and how they're doing it. So I thought that was really brilliant because you mentioned even things about participation in class. I think for me personally, I enjoy it because, it keeps me engaged with the course, with the content. And also you mentioned things about, like results, they don't really measure whether you're the best or not, but then they measure your ability to navigate the course. And I remember when we're doing law in third year, especially law of life partnerships, it's literally your ability to navigate the course outline. It's nothing else. And I think that's probably something that a lot of people know about, but then they just need that reminder that, if you're targeting for 50%, that's too fine. If you're targeting to be the best you can, if you're targeting hundreds, 90s, whatever you're targeting, that's too fine. So I thought that was really good. So what advice can you give to students who want to do LOB or law, whether they're in high school or whether they're in their first year wanting to go the LOB route, or in next year will be in penultimate? What advice can you give to those students?
Okay. First of all, if they haven't started, do your research.
Is it like to your younger self?
Yeah. Just do your research. Look at other opportunities and make sure that law is absolutely what you want to do. I know that it's flawed. Like our system is flawed because people have to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And at 18 years old, at 18 years old, I mean, even if you look at yourself, how much your fashion sense has evolved over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
You tell that like you're not the same person that you were. Yeah. You are definitely not the same person that you were. So before you even start, make sure that you do a bit of research. Know what it entails. Because trust me, I know no warrior who ever goes to war is going to tell you about the difficulties if they've won that war. And no one's going to tell you about the soldiers that fell once they're back. Because, I mean, at that time, the focus is on them.
The victory,
because, the victory is there. You don't want to drench that in a somber state by saying, oh, this person, this. But ultimately, I think there's so many people that have terrible stories about doing law. And there's some people who come to me and say, I hate this thing. I don't like this thing. I'm like, then why are you doing it? Like, you don't have to. You get what I mean? I know that for some people, it's ultimately, I need to make my parents proud. Trust me, that's not sufficient in law. You wanting to make someone happy, that's not a sufficient reason to do law. So to those who haven't gotten into law, make sure that it's 100% the thing that you want to do. Because if you're not really sure, or if you're doing it for the money, trust me, not every lawyer makes a killing after they leave uni. Some would say that like many lawyers currently are going through a hard time in terms of finances and stuff like that. And my uncle would always tell me that when you choose a career path, don't look for the place that they say has money. If you just want money, go look for money. It has nothing to do with the degree.
Yeah.
I think that's good advice.
Money, like, of course, does it boost your chances of getting a job? Yeah, sure. But I'm saying if your motivation is purely money, then perhaps you need to just chase after money. Because there are some ways of chasing money. There are some people who start a trade at age 18.
Yeah.
If someone is a builder or plumber from age 18, they are starting to save up money from the age that we are starting to go to uni.
And you're spending money.
We're spending money on school. We're investing, right? They get maybe their first 4 years. They've gathered some of the money that they got. They maybe buy a few tools. They go on the side. They start their own trade or their own practice, to put it that way. Then they keep ascending to higher levels. All this to say that some professions are quite glamorous, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's where the money is going to come from. Anyone is capable of making money in their respective profession. So if you want to chase money, then if that's your motivation, don't choose a degree because you want to look for money. Because, even though it boosts your chances, I don't think that's an adequate motivation. Because once you come to law, you start realizing that, to be honest, you really need to kind of like the stuff. You need to engage with the content. Even if you don't like it, you need to at least understand it and have an appreciation for it. And I think that's ultimately going to help you out. So that's the thing that I'll tell to someone who hasn't started. To people who are already in or on the way, I'd say that start, building a taste for the law outside of what you're doing in class. Because I think ultimately what boosts your ability to engage as a lawyer, or that boosts your ability to communicate, that boosts your understanding of the law, is how you engage with, current affairs and the things that are happening on the legal landscape. One thing that has helped me a lot is listening to podcasts that have to do with the law. I listen to Bloomberg Law. Whenever there's a case that's interesting, like right now there's a case about NFTs over Jay-Z's debut album. NFTs are a relatively new, aspect in the creative industry. And you as a law student, you need to think, wow, okay, how can I apply my practice to that? Because, the landscape of practice is changing.
Yeah.
You need to start adapting. So that has helped me. Engaging with the law outside of what you already do. Also have a good relationship with your peers. Trust me, you'll benefit a lot from having friends who are doing the same thing as you. Have a good relationship with your lecturer. Don't hesitate to send an email. Ultimately, you paid for the university experience. Use that money well. If you don't understand something, then ask a question. But also, when you ask a question, don't just ask an open-ended one. Sometimes it could be a request for your lecturer to confirm your understanding of something. Put it in your own words and say, did you mean that we're supposed to do A, B, C? Or did you mean something completely different? That's going to show the lecturer that, okay, you took some initiative to at least engage with the content. They are not starting from scratch, which is always good for them because they've already taught this thing once. So, always be kind to your lecturers and also just engage with them as much as possible. Thirdly, don't take anything personally. If you get a mark and you're not happy with it, ask why. There's no need to be spiteful and say, this lecturer is an absolute nonsensical person or anything to that extent or to that effect, because arrogance will always stifle your growth. If you believe that you deserve a certain mark and you don't ultimately get it, your reflex shouldn't be to criticize the person who gave you that mark. it should be to ask them how you can improve, because they basically hold the keys to that course. You need to know your lecturer as much as you know the law, because I mean, you can have the information that you need, but if you don't know your lecturer and how they want things in a certain way, trust me, this is practical advice. You should know your lecturer. Know your lecturer's love languages. You know, if their love languages are case law application, make sure that you have that on lock. If you know that their love languages, you know, good writing, make that happen. If you know that your lecturer doesn't like people who beat around the bush, work on being precise. So know your lecturer just as much as you know the law, and trust me, you're gonna win. You'll do extremely well, even if maybe you're not the best. You're definitely going to be among the best, because, you know, most of the advice that I'm giving right here is known to many. But I think the ability to implement is what matters more than anything else. Yeah. And I think that's the primary advice I'll just give to everyone. And also, it's not suits. I think people should know this by now. Guys, law is not suits. You need to have an appreciation of the amount of work that you're going to have to do. You need to be able to work when it counts. Not every single day is going to be extremely difficult, but you need to be able to switch up gears when it requires you to just get into that mode where you need to just cross things off your list. So yeah, that's what I would give. That advice I'd give.
Yeah, man. You know, I think this was brilliant because you've taken us to, I don't know, certain aspects of law school that we're not familiar with, especially when you say, you know your lecturers, love language. You know, everyone is just talking about love languages on social media and whatnot. But, you know, that's really important, because the thing is, you know, the lecturer holds the keys to a course. So you need to know, you said something important. You said, know your lecturer the same way you know the law. So man, I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of people would appreciate that as well, because, you know, you've given us something, you know, that's deeper than the basic outline about law school, you know, doing law and whatnot, suits and all that. Yeah. You know, thank you for that. So, man, do you feel the pressure of being consistent and being a role model to your sibling?
Well, I wouldn't phrase it as pressure, because I think being a role model to my siblings is a responsibility. Ultimately, being the firstborn, I think, you know, you benefited a lot from being a firstborn, because your parents gambled on you quite a lot. And I speak for all firstborns, and I say this: the upbringing is tough, but also the love is also extremely generous, because you're basically setting the pace. You know, they really take out all that they can to just make sure that you at least lead the way. When your parents see you, they're seeing, okay, a leader in the family as well. Someone who can step in when ultimately they're like, you know what, we've done our bit. You need to keep working and helping out your siblings. I don't feel the pressure, to be honest. I just think it has to be natural within someone to just try and be a role model. Now, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of everyone, because I mean, people have different relationships in their family. People also just have different beliefs. Some people genuinely believe that, okay, to be honest, I just need to make sure that I'm good, and I'm good enough. I'm in a good position to just, you know, live my life and do the best that I absolutely can. But I think for me, I have a very different relationship with my siblings. They are, you know, extremely important to me. Like family is, you know, one of my priorities. When we talk about priorities, family is up there. Yeah. So to me, it really matters. I need to be, but I think when we talk about consistency, some things just come with just acknowledging that you're also a human being. Yeah. I think one thing that I have a problem with, especially in this ultra productivity, there's this productivity YouTuber space that I'm very much a fan of. Yeah. But sometimes it dehumanizes people, such that, for example, having a slow day all of a sudden becomes this egregious sin. Whereas, you know, the reality is, you know, you're not a machine. And ultimately, even if you are a machine needs to be maintained. And that means it needs to be shut down. It needs to, so I ultimately value understanding that, look, I'm human, but I'm a capable human being nonetheless. And I think that's what matters. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something like in your last statements about, having a slow day being seen as this, sin and whatnot. And, like for me, I was away for hockey and all that.
Yeah.
But, when I came back now, bro, like I've just, I don't know, my productivity, it has just been slow. Even my work ethic has been slow. But, I think it's more of like what you're saying. You have to understand that you're still human. It's fine to be slow. It's fine to be having off days and whatnot. But I think the most important thing that you mentioned was about when you say, being a firstborn, the love is generous because your parents gambled on you and, they've put in probably a lot of resources. And I think also we need to understand that, I don't know, like what you're saying again, we are human beings and we need to understand that our parents, they're, when you're firstborn or even with the other children, because we are not all the same. The children are not all the same. So they're also learning to be parents. Just as you're learning to be a first year student in university, children. So yeah, I think that was really important. Vanessa, do you, as a firstborn, what can you say?
Yeah, no, man. I actually just, what he was saying, it's true. Because when sometimes you're just like, but you guys are not letting me be a child now. Because you only get to be a child when you are still the only child. Yeah. And then once another child comes, it's like, now you have to take care of your sibling. And just sometimes you're like, but I'm also a child, And I just feel like now that I'm grown, I have this understanding that, they were also learning. So at times they're like, they want you to build a relationship with your siblings. So it's like, okay, you guys spend time together. You take care of this one. You do that. So I think, it's all a learning process. As you grow, you start to understand certain things. And,
So which 3 people would you invite to a dinner party and why?
Oh, wow. Man, that's a tough one.
Is this like anyone?
Anyone. I have a dinner party. Maybe I want to network at my house. And I'm bringing in maybe people high regard and maybe friends I hold in high regard as well. And I say, Chris, here's an invitation to my dinner party. Can you invite 3 people?
3 people. Okay, wait. Just a couple of questions on that. Are they famous?
No.
Not famous?
Okay. Okay, so they're not. I don't know. So they can be famous, but just 3 people you would want to accompany you to a dinner party. To a dinner party, and why?
I have never thought about that. That's such a good question. I think I would invite probably the first person I'd invite, my brother, right? I would invite there's some people that I really look up to, which some people might deem, this guy, Joe Rogan. And I would also invite, who's the third one? I think, this is it. Now it's sorry if I don't pick you.
Don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally. Just put me on the spot. You might be included maybe if I think for a couple of more minutes. But I think the third person would be drum roll.
Okay.
Drum roll. So there's this guy, and most people might not know him. I think his name is Sundar Pichai. He's the CEO of Google.
Okay.
ABC. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'll explain why. My brother, because to be honest, my brother is very calm, very chilled. And you need people who always keep you grounded. So he would be the one who, anchor me and make sure that, he would humble me. Even if I was wearing a Gucci suit, he would tell me something wrong with what I'm looking like. So I like my brother for that reason. And he's good company. Also a good driver. So he drives me. The second person, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is, I think, easily one of the best conversation makers in history, because Joe Rogan basically has the biggest podcast in the world, and he can talk to anyone, any person. Like when you look at his audience, you're like, you can't put all these people in the same room because they're so divergent in terms of their thinking. But then somehow Joe Rogan manages to have a conversation with each of them about different things. And I like Joe Rogan because he's so diverse in terms of what he knows about. If you want to talk about tech, he knows about tech. If you want to talk about mixed martial arts, he's a mixed martial arts commentator. If you want to talk about reality TV, he used to be the host of Fear Factor. If you want to talk about health, the guy is 50 something years old, but he looks extremely young. Like he's a Pharrell, one of a kind type. But then he's just basically so diverse in terms of his thinking. He can make a conversation with anyone. So I would have him for that reason. Then the Google guy, I don't know, but then I'm just drawn to his character because he's such a, I don't know, man. Like there's some people who've got a calming presence. He's the CEO of Google and he's done so many great projects with Google. One thing that I admire about him is he's one of the most paid employees on planet Earth. He gets 250 million an annum. As a CEO, he doesn't have a stake in the company. This is his salary, He might have a stake. I don't know how far that goes, but I know that he gets a salary of around 250 million. But his ability is being able to lead, a big project such as Google. He's an innovator. The Google Workspace is touted as one of the best. And I really admire people who are just good leaders and who don't have to be mean about it. People who are really nice, but then they're able to navigate a team forward. They're able to bring ideas. Anyone who makes a room, I think if you had him in the room, you'd really benefit just from that presence.
Brilliant. Yeah, man. Because, I've just been on that vibe of bringing people together, networking.
I see you.
Because it's really beneficial because you learn a lot. And what's Joe Rogan's podcast called?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Is it on YouTube as well?
It's on Spotify. So he signed, I forgot how many millions, but it was a crazy million amount. I think it was over 100 million, if I'm not mistaken. Exclusive deals with Spotify, but it's available on video on Spotify.
Oh, okay.
Free.
Okay. Serious?
Yeah, like Spotify, the free version as well.
Even
if you don't have premium, you can still listen to his podcast.
Yeah, that's amazing. Man, I feel like I would enjoy having all those guys at my dinner party because of the experience that they would bring. And I think Joe Rogan is a leader and the CEO of Google is all a leader from what you're saying. But what is, and it's still like you are inspired by leaders, So I would believe your brother, your father, your uncle, they have all leaders, So what is your leadership approach, philosophy, style, and where do you derive it from?
Okay, that's quite a good question. I think in terms of leadership style, approach, philosophy, I think ultimately a leader is supposed to be someone who makes the people within that organization as resourceful as possible. That means empowering people that are within your leadership space. I'm very much a delegate kind of guy. Like I will delegate, but I will make sure that you take responsibility for something that you want to engage in. So what I make sure of is, number one, I make sure that I set lofty targets for my team. That's the first thing. Secondly, I make them, invested in whatever we're working on. The only way that they can be invested in what they're working on is by having a footprint in the project. So giving them full autonomy in what they're running and being able to present to you their ideas as they are. Because I also need to understand that as a leader, I'm not there to show everyone, my expertise. I'm here to make sure that the leadership board or whatever organization I'm leading is a well-oiled machine. And I think ultimately a leader creates other leaders. I need to know that by the time that I leave, any one of these people is capable of just taking on the rank that I took and do better than I actually did. Because obviously as a leader, you make some mistakes. That's the whole idea of being a leader. You take the blame for someone else's mistakes. If someone doesn't send an email on time, it's going to reflect badly on you.
Yes.
And you need to sometimes take those shots. But then I think ultimately my leadership style is make sure that you create other leaders. That's your number one priority. Number two, be a good listener. listen as much as you can. If it means that in meetings you're the one who's last to speak, that's also another thing by the Pachai guy, the CEO of Google.
Yeah.
In all these meetings, he waits for everyone else to speak, and then he zones out for a second when people are discussing a problem, and then proposes a solution. But then he doesn't impose it; he proposes it, so that if people want to agree with him, they buy into his idea, as opposed to him just imposing it because he is the CEO. By doing that, he's making everyone invested in what they're working on. So that's the whole idea of optimum performance, making sure that everyone is invested in whatever project that you're doing. If you say, okay, so for example, I'm leading Golden Key currently, and every year, Golden Key, there's what they call chapter standing. It's basically, when you need to do a minimum number of events, you need to do a minimum number of activities for you to get a certain standing. So there's bronze, there's compliant, there's bronze, there's silver, there's gold. Gold is the highest, right? And at the beginning of the year, I was like, guys, we're going for gold. And it hasn't happened here for like a long time. But now, we are knocking at the door. Literally, we're just one event away. By next week, Wednesday, we're at gold, But how we managed to do that is we managed to get a lot of buy-in from the committee members, because I would tell them, guys, okay, so what projects do you want us to see this year? What projects do you think or are you thinking about as a portfolio holder? What can you do for them? So now when the project is about to happen, they would text me, Chris, we need this and that. They would always light a fire under my feet to make sure that their project is going to go well. And I like that sort of buy-in, because it encouraged them to just take responsibility for their role in making sure that the society actually thrives and does well. So that's how I've just approached leadership. And where it came from, to be honest, I don't know. I think I found, maybe I stumbled upon it somewhere on the internet. I don't know, but I think that has just been my approach, and I just haven't known any other way.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. You sort of mentioned, with what you said, it just reminded me of like the different levels of leadership. You know how you're the president and you have all the other people having different portfolios. They're also leaders in their own right, because everyone else is not, doesn't have like a portfolio. They don't sit in your meeting. And it's like, do you always aim for like the top, or do you sometimes like want to work your way through to the top?
That's a good question. Yeah. To be honest, I don't take up a position that I don't believe that I'll 100% do well in. Sometimes I intentionally don't apply for certain roles because I'm like, how am I going to contribute? I need more information. So I'm never going to gun for a position if I don't ultimately believe that I can, cause, like huge change or do something that hasn't been done before. So I always make sure that I make, like, if it means I'm going to get into mid-level, it's fine. I'll start at mid-level. But ultimately, I just don't know. Like, in most cases where I've taken up leadership positions, it's been at the highest level in most cases. Like, in first year, that's when I campaigned to become head student. Second year, I was already head student. When with SimSoc, for example, first year, I wasn't in com or anything, but then by second, like I was already vice president, second year, vice chair. So that's just the thing. Like, I need to be able to be honest with myself about the position. Like, do you think that you're good for this position? If I believe that I am, then I'm going to take it up and I'm probably going to do well. But if I believe that I'm not ready for it yet, I'll observe, I'll learn, I'll interact, because I always make it a point that if there's a position that I'm gunning for, I interact with the people in those positions currently as much as possible, because those people also don't have people asking them about how they're doing things. And you find that in most cases, they become so vulnerable with you. It's just like when, you talk to any leader who's always criticized. If you ask them legit questions without criticizing them and say, but explain to me, like, why is it this way, that way? They'll be extremely vulnerable with you because they want you to understand what they're dealing with at a leadership level, the interests that they have to balance. And once you get those conversations going, once you start learning from them, you then learn to say, okay, what can I do differently? How can I improve that? How can I do this and that? But yeah, ultimately, just be honest with yourself. Never put yourself at a position that you don't think you're going to make an impact. Don't do that, because you're doing an injustice to another candidate who might be able to do just that. And most of all, to the people that you're leading. Yeah.
And I think with most times, people don't tend to get close to the people in those positions first, because they're like, they always just criticize, and it's like, I can do a better job. And you never want to understand what struggles these people are facing, or, what actually is happening in that. So I think that's really important.
Okay, so you're a student leader, and you're actually currently leading Golden Key. But why have you never campaigned for SRC?
It's not the first time I've received this question.
We all want to know.
Yeah. No, to be honest, I think, I really have an elevated level of respect for SRC members, because those people do, things that are not as easy as people think they are. Navigating management at that level is a whole different aspect. The reason why I haven't applied for SRC is because, quite frankly, I don't believe that I would be able to to impact people as much as I would want. Because you find that with SRC, most of the projects that are taken up by SRC run over years. And sometimes you start a project that you won't see the door of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit disheartening, because I like seeing instant impact. I like seeing results. And sometimes you might be doing so well, taking up, a project from, for example, from the discussion level to an implementation level, but then won't ultimately see that implementation. I think it takes a different type of leader to have that much patience, where they incrementally contribute to an organization, which is why I have the utmost respect for them. And I also think, operating within a university structure is in itself a very complex task. And I think at this moment of my life, my priority lies with, number one, being able to impact, people in the leadership spheres that I already have, right? But then also a commitment to my craft, undivided. And I think that with SRC, you become someone who cares about a lot. You know what I mean? I genuinely believe this philosophy that the less that you care about, the more sane you're likely to be. And here's why. If you want to think, let's take it from a circle by circle perspective. You've got your immediate friends. Your immediate friends have their problems, right? Now they become your problems, because you're very empathetic, right? Guess what? Your friends have other family members that are going through things. Now your friend tells you what their family member is going about and how they're sad. Them being sad makes you sad. And now you're sad about that, right? But no, that's not the end of the circle. Grahamstown is going through a water crisis. That sucks.
Yeah.
And you care about that.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? It's not only Grahamstown. Global warming is a thing.
The ice is melting.
The ice is melting everywhere. So the thing is, as much as these are legitimate concerns, as much as these are extremely important, right? At your level, you shouldn't be too concerned about things that you cannot impact. You get what I mean? So maybe if you limit your worries to the things that you can change, that would be extremely good for your sanity. And I think, being a member of SRC would be an extremely cool thing. I think I would be able to do well in some regards, but I think ultimately, by me being a bit too invested in it, because when I get invested, I really get invested. Things would put me off. I would be extremely frustrated at some of the things that happen when you don't see immediate results, when you don't see maybe management doing this and that. So the reason why I haven't run for SRC really is that I respect the position too much to go in there and do it half-heartedly.
Yeah.
I need to be 100% committed to leading at that scale. I just think that in my current state, I can impact in a way that still gives me the satisfaction that I derive from.
Okay.
So you can say that it's just not for me. But yeah.
Okay. All right. I know you're trying to navigate this question, but okay. So So let's say you're given a 3-year contract to run for an SRC position. Which position would you want, and what would you change? So let's say you're given a certain position, or you've won and you have a certain portfolio. What would you change that is missing around this university campus, or what would you improve?
That's a good question. What would I improve? Well, probably.
And which position would you want?
Yeah, probably 2 positions actually. Yeah. Maybe president, because obviously when you're president, I think your voice is a bit more prominent. I should say, and I think being able to be someone who's good at implementing as well as motivating the people that we work with, I think would do extremely amazing work. But I'd also take benefits counselor as well, because I genuinely believe that there's a problem with and I think you guys will agree with me. There's a general apathy at Rhodes University for taking up leadership positions. There's a general apathy for performing extremely well in cultural activities or in doing well in this and that, because I don't think they're adequately incentivized. They're just not adequately incentivized. Like if you wanted to sell a house composition right now to somebody, what would you tell them the benefits are? Right?
Yeah, that you can become a subordinate
at some point. But then that's the problem, because you're saying that inherently that position is not valuable enough for it to be an inherently marketable position. It's viewed mainly as a stepping stone. I think people at those positions, already as they are, should be given a higher level of appreciation. It could mean some financial benefits. It could mean some other form of recognition. Some, how they have colors for academics, leadership colors. They used to do that with the Investec Top 100 Award, but you're only rewarding like 20 people, But I feel like, you need to be able to get some form of colors. You need to get some form of recognition, because I know that a friend of mine at Stellies, he said that like their housecom actually gets paid, but maybe it's because their houses are structured a bit differently from ours. But I think ultimately these positions need to be incentivized more, and people really need to just be very, willing to participate in leadership. And I think the best way to do that is through benefits as well. So yeah, but I think that's one thing that I would really change. And yeah, just making Rhodes a bit more, what can I say? Integrated into just the university ecosystem in South Africa, because I feel like Rhodes is a bit isolated, just from everyone else. This year, I had the opportunity of going and meeting at the Constitutional Court. And it was so nice interacting with other unis. Like, wow, these people actually have law schools too, and they struggle just as much as, this is nice, let's bond over our trauma. You know what I mean? But it was just nice being able to interact with other unis. I think we're a bit too isolated. So I think,
I don't know if we still have enough time, but because we've been on this conversation. But I don't know, maybe 5 more minutes. So, okay, so how was, I was going to ask about how was that constitutional court experience? How was it?
It was good. It was amazing. So the thing is, one thing that I really value about that experience is that it exposed me to how much work you need to do on a daily if you want to make it out there. It's quite some work. But ultimately, I think it also enhanced some of the skills that I genuinely didn't think I had. Also, I never saw myself as a constitutional litigator or just an advocate of some sort, but I quite enjoyed the experience there. And I was like, hey, maybe one day you could be in a litigation department of some sort. But I think ultimately just the whole experience, it was good for upskilling. I think I really improved. We had some sessions where we were taught how to draft, how to speak, how to address judges. It was amazing. Also learned, also networked. I managed to network with people who are working in the legal tech sector, which is something that I'm into. So managed to just exchange some contacts with them. They're like, if you think about something, man, because we had a really lengthy and enjoyable conversation about legal tech and what tech can do for us in the law. So it was a good networking opportunity. Met some awesome people from the unis. It's even the one that, because we ultimately lost in the finals. The people that we lost to were actually super cool. Like, talked to them, really nice people, also very smart. So it was a nice little bubble to be placed in, a place where brilliant minds can all just gel well. And, ultimately there's just, a good time that came out of that.
And, you mentioned something about integrating Rhodes into the South African university experience, and how do we integrate Rhodes into that?
That's, I think, by being intentional about it. I don't know, like, I think in cultural activities, for example, like, you don't find most unis just interacting with Rhodes on an intervarsity basis, except when there's an intervarsity party that people enjoy for 3 days and all of that stuff. But I think we need to be intentional about it from an institutional level down to student level, where students are, intently traveling to other unis, getting that experience, being able to exchange ideas, just being able to see what's going on in other universities. Because I think ultimately, if we manage to imitate the good things from other universities, and if universities imitated what we do well here, ultimately that would lead to everyone growing, and every uni would actually do well. So I think we just need to be intentional about it from a senior perspective to a student perspective, because I think from the student side, that's where it lacks. Yeah.
All right. So thank you for that. So what career opportunities are there for international students studying law in South Africa?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because, and I say it's tough not because there aren't jobs, no, but I think most people come here with the wrong idea about what life is going to look like after uni. Because most students think once you come to South Africa, you can just get a job right away in South Africa. Yet, currently, as the Legal Practice Act, as it is currently framed, foreigners can't practice in South Africa. Like, that's just the reality, stone cold reality. This means that you need to understand that your path is not going to be anything less than unconventional in most cases. You need to start looking at other opportunities, corporate, like not the practice, but consulting. There are many consultancies. There are pharmaceutical companies that take, even international students into their internship programs and ultimately get in there as full-time workers. There's academia. I know that it's something that's frowned upon, but it's also like a very growing area in our law, because I think the law because we're at an inflection point in terms of us transcending into this technical reality, where technology is taking an elevated role. New areas of practice are being created, and we need academics to be able to predict or suggest how the current law can be, converted to suit those needs. So academia is a growing area of law. I also think, opportunities overseas. There are so many programs that take international students. It's only a matter of doing a bit of research. Especially the bigger firms in UK, the bigger firms in USA, some of them have those programs where you can actually go there, work for them for a couple of years. They retain you, you work there full time, or maybe if you want to change, you want to come back to Africa, that's up to you. But I just want to have, like, this piece of advice is something that I wish I'd been taught. Like, start early, scouting for opportunities. Start as early as possible. If you're doing your 5-year degree, third year should be your time to go after opportunities. Start looking around, start applying, and you never know how it's gonna pan out for you. And also remember that not all career paths are linear. You know, that whole idea of uni, then work, then money, then job is not a reality to most people. So don't be discouraged if your path is not looking like that, because it's far from conventional. You know, just be able to keep yourself in the game somehow. The trick is just making sure that if you're not working, don't be seated at home. You'd rather keep learning until an opportunity comes up. Because at that point, you're still focusing on your craft. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So, you know, there's commitment to service in your life, because you have this Instagram page called Careers Connect. We'll put the link in our description below. You know, it's called Careers Connect, but you know, you have this sort of like discussion about how to tackle law school while avoiding burnout and having a social life. You know, how do you do that?
Okay, yeah. Let me tell you something, especially law students. I think what people don't understand is it's really busy out there, right? Once you finish uni, it's not going to be all of a sudden you're at peace. You're done with all. Like it's going to be extremely chaotic in terms of the workload that you need to have, which is why I emphasized before that it's important to absolutely love what you do. And sometimes one of the ways of loving what you do is being able to, again, commitment to the process, making sure that you have a sustainable schedule on a daily basis. Make sure that you're able to work with extreme focus so that when you rest, you do it guiltlessly, without any guilt, without any fear of, I could be doing this or that, because it's exactly intended for the one purpose of you just, you know, because you were talking about having an off day, like where you're not feeling too good. If you don't take a day off, you get an off day somehow. Your body will tell you to rest, even if you don't want it to. So you'd rather be at the same thinking level with your body. If it's time for you to rest, make sure that you do it without any regret. Just enjoy, be in the moment, relax. Because trust me, if you spend a weekend without doing anything and it was planned, you planned it, you said, I'm not going to do anything this weekend, I'm just going to watch Netflix, sleep, rest. Come Monday, you're ready to work. You literally itch to work because you're like, okay, excuse me, I've been chilling for a long time. I now need to, you know, be extremely productive. So again, work hard, play hard. Always make sure that you don't give yourself unnecessary stress. Make sure that you always pursue mental clarity. Focus on health. That's another important thing. I think if you're someone who's generally not healthy, in terms of lifestyle, it'll be slow. Like the choice of food that we eat sometimes, like eating chips for lunch. I mean, chips are nice. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying you're probably going to enter a slump after that, because you know the thing about high sugar foods, high carb count foods, you're gonna feel elevated for 30 minutes and then you crash. So go for those sustainable foods. Have your nice salads. Have your nice, you know, light meals. Do a bit of exercise. You know, meditate, pray, relax, sleep. It's important because ultimately you're a human being. There's no point in you just focusing on one aspect of your life, which is academics, because to be honest, that's not really what, you know, life is about. Life is not all about working and then dying. So always understand that life is not always about that. And also just reaching out to family, making sure that you stay grounded, you understand your whys, knowing, why do I do this? Why am I at school? Why do I want these marks? What is my target? What is the reason that I'm working this hard for? Because having your why on hand will always help you in the tough times. So yeah, ultimately that's how you make sure that you don't burn out. Just be able to say, okay, if it's not time for work, I'm relaxing, and I'm relaxing unapologetically. So yeah.
Okay, so before you conclude, Vanessa, do you have anything you want to ask?
No, I think you've asked a lot of questions today.
Okay, so as a conclusion, Mr. Tobaiwa,
yeah,
you get 500 US dollars, or 7 million rands. You know, to some it's a lot, to some it's not a lot. But what are you doing with it?
Oh wow, that's a difficult question. To be honest, I would probably invest in real estate development. Because in Zim, like, you know, there's like the land is there, but I think the housing market is just dead because people are not making, you know, competitive accommodation arrangements. It's a highly inflated field, and being able to maybe try and level the playing ground or the playing field, that would make sense. Alternatively, farming. I think farming is a really, really big opportunity for growth. And I think that's one place where capital translates. Like farming capital actually translates. You can get like currently, you know, with cannabis being increasingly imported in many products that are being created today, like the CBD products, obviously without the psychedelic aspect, that's a big market as well. So farming, food security, I know that in 50 years, agriculture is going to be $1 billion industry, according to predictions. So I think it's never a bad decision to invest in a piece of land and farm. Farming is, it's a quality endeavor.
For someone who's from a small mining town, I thought that would be something to throw in there.
Well, thing is, probably I would, but then just the way that the mining is done, it's currently I'm not happy with the way that things are, but I don't want to get too political.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you, Mr. Tobaiwa, for joining us today, and Ms. Kekana as well. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thank you. Cheers.